hayi siyabonga nje isabelo sokuthi namhlanje sibe khona masithula inkosi yomhlaba uGeb ukuthi sikhone ukuthi siqonde ukuthi masikhuluma ngoGeb sikhuluma ngayo ngoba sikhuluma ngenkosi yomhlaba njengoba ushiyo ukuthi uGeb ubusa inyanga yesithu onyakeni wama-Afrika, the 6th month of the African year. Manje ke ngicela ngibonga indlovukazi ngithi ndlovukazi ngoba ngithi thina we are eternally your children niyasizana ingakho njalo nje mele siyikhumbuze lento lokuthi a man will always be a child to a woman. Ngaphandle komama asilutho makhehla. Okhokho bebe-understanda lokhu. That is why there was harmony in our societies and communities, because always bebezama ukuthi ba-create a resonance between iZulu nomhlaba. Remember ukuthi sichaze lento ukuthi kungani ukuhlonishwa umama. In our solar system, ilanga that energizes each and every planet gets its energy from Sirius star Sopdet, which is a female, energy. So yingakho ke kuthiwa as above so is below. So umama uphezulu and forever, because unikeza amandla to lento thina sithi umvelincane qamatha, the first atom, the first cause before any other creation. So ukuze nabo okhokho bahloniphe mama in the community, you could never send to the throne without marrying a princess. So kusemqoka ke ukuthi si restore all those things that gave us harmony in our lives as African people. So one of those things, or a foundation yalokho, calendar. You need to understand the calendar. Who determines your time? Because if you are going to adopt a calendar or a time that was set by your enemy, you will forever be a slave to that person. So one of the programs in terms of liberating our minds is to re-adopt our calendar. Our calendar, like I always say, it's not just an ornament, but iyaphilwa ngoba siphila le mimoya ebakhona ibe prevalent because of the distance between ilanga nomhlaba wethu. So that proximity between earth and sun makes certain energies prevalent on earth. So i-calendar yetu iyi-science. I-calendar yetu siyayiphila. I-calendar yetu is the source of our spiritual doctrine. I-calendar yetu gave birth to all other calendars in the world. When you talk about the Gregorian, you talk about whatever, they all, took from us because we are the firstborn. We were the first people to create a calendar. And the oldest stone calendar in the world is here in Mpumalanga, called Nsingiza. So our calculation, or our zeptepi, the beginning, is calculated from that establishment of the oldest stone calendar in the world. So these are things that we need to celebrate as African people, especially on the southern part of the continent, because that is the beginning of the initial isiqalo civilization. The southern part of the continent is responsible for civilization, but it was refined on the northern part. That is why uzothola ukuthi kunabo Egypt, abo Kemet, where everything was then refined. Mawubheka Ethiopia nase Sudan, there are more pyramids than in Egypt. Why? Because refinement bese ngakafike lapha, but mesifike Egypt we reached the epitome in terms of our development. That is why we did these things as a collective. Remember, ngesizulu, the north is called inyakato. You know, inyakato means it was overpopulated. uMhlaba bowuzamazama because of that. So bowufeel pressure. So now all those Africans are in the south, from where it began. Isiqalo is south. So they went okhokho from the south, bayolentuza refinery in the north. When they got the unfortunate incident, decolonization, we found ourselves back from where we started, from. Even scientifically, it has, been proven through the study of Babizani genes. Uguti, most of the DNA of people who lived in North, Kemet, Egypt, they are found here on the southern part, especially mostly here in South Africa. So that has been scientifically proven, Uguti. The more we disassociate ourselves from the north, is the more we give, other people to actually steal, our heritage. So Egypt is your heritage. You build it. Hey, Mkhulu, the Congo, the Brazzaville, all those, kingdoms that were prominent, and part of the Great Empire of Kemet. So, the Great Empire of Kemet is not just something that is Tamsak. It once existed, and that was the only time Africa was united under that Great Empire of Kemet. Meaning, of course, is our center. We cannot move away from that. So the re-establishment, of our character as African people, it has to be, founded on the basis of Ukosi. Otherwise, if you articulate, you still want to form another political party, you are further dividing black people. So we need to mobilize and unite behind who we are as African people. We are kings and queens. We are the firstborns to be created. So we need to rise to that. So namhlanje ke sikhuluma ngoGeb. uGeb, isizini la sivuna khona. Remember ukuthi unyaka wethu starts on the 23rd of September, which is the month of renewal. Why? Because everything is being renewed. After the latent period of winter, now the energy that gives life and nurtures everything is now returning. Meaning, on the day of the spring equinox, that is when the last day, which is the 23rd, the sun from the northern hemisphere makes 1 degree southwards. We call the Afrikan New Year. That is science, which was given by our ancestors to us as a heritage. Uguti, we should stop following the northern calendar, because it has no correlation to what is happening or the energy that we experience on the southern hemisphere. Meaning ukuthi bakuphambanise ukuqa at the wrong time. Ukuqa la kungamelanga ukuqa khona, like December, we're supposed to be working. Singavala amafem, because that is when the energy, the hydrogen is heightened here on the southern part of the continent. Sinamandla for us to work. So manje, because we are following the northern hemisphere calendar, we are then forced to hibernate. As yet the sun is not in hibernation. The sun starts hibernation manje March 21st. That is when it starts hibernating. That is when nathi mele sinciphise what we do on the physical. So because of colonization, we are still following izinto ezingekho. Yingakho ke senza lo msebenzi to remind ourselves, because lento esiyenzayo, it's nothing new. Okhokho bethu bebehamba ngale. We are just reintroducing into esiyazi. Siyazi kahle ukuthi ngesintu ngesizulu uSeptember umandulo. Meaning ukuthi siqalela, we going back la siqale khona the previous year. So ngesisuthu lwethu all signifies a new cycle. So okhokho bethu were scientists, for them to even understand the concept of the first atom before creation, bayibize ukuthi uqamata. uramasedi, umvelinqangi. That is understanding. That is a science on its own. So the more siqhela from our things, the more we perpetuate slavery, and the more we enslave our ancestors because they are not able to fully express through us, because tina siyale bona basibhekele. So yingakho ke we need to realign. Njengamanje, this is the 6th month of the African year. Abelungu bathini? Eyiphi inyanga bathini?
It's the 3rd month.
Look at that. Huh? The 3rd. The 3rd month. Remember, you need to understand ukuthi abelungu ne bona. Angithi manje siya kule period ye Easter. We are going towards Easter. Easter is calculated based on the calendar of the northern hemisphere, because Easter yethu ingo September. Le ngikhuluma ngayo ukuthi 23 zika September, because they are welcoming the sun back, you know, on the northern hemisphere. Tina, the sun is leaving us on the 21st day of March. So we can't then sihambe ngekalenda yabelungu. Yingakho, you know, we are in this condition esikuyo, because we are confusing our electrons and protons and everything in our system. Why? Because consciously sihamba ngekalenda wrong. That is why we cannot rise, you know, to the occasion where we assume our position as Africans. Umqondo wethu, the pineal gland is always, you know, being disturbed from us being, you know, able to fully express who we are. So, uGeb, mesikhuluma ngoGeb, we are not talking about a historical figure that once lived. We are talking about energy, the principle, which is determined by the proximity of sun and earth. At this time, ilanga, you can feel it. Seliyaphela. Soqala ukubanda. Meaning ukuthi isikhathi se-harvest. Everything esitshale ngo-September. Now, sesiyadla, isivuno. That is why uzothola ukuthi nasesiwazini kunomkhosi wamaganga, where, you know, community, before they indulge, they take that harvest to the king, Uchiyoluma, before the whole community indulges. So that is aligned to this month as well. So abantu bethu, as much as there was a time where balahlekelwa information, but somehow umoya always brings them back, you know, to realign. So uzothola ukuthi not only Swaziland, naKwaZulu, there are things that happen during this time, you know, which then signifies ukuthi sekusondele isikhathi sokuthi sistore ama-seeds for the next season ka-September, where we start, you know, planting. So uGeb ke representa that fullness of manifestation, and uGeb we are assisted even in terms of you know, business, because uGeb, that is the energy that gives you the ability ukuthi you must successfully conclude, you know, whatever you've been negotiating all this time. So ma uhamba nge-African calendar uhamba with the energy ye nature, you know, wenza izinto ezi-right at the same time, you know, ngesikhathi esi-right. So it's very important for us to actually even, you know, align. Then when we go to science of who Geb is, uGeb, there's a frequency that they call the Skuman frequency. That is the earth frequency. That frequency, you know, I believe it resonates at about the 7.83, you know, hertz. You know, that is the frequency that also heals. Meaning, Guti, when you experience, especially like you know, in towns, there's a lot of disturbance. Kunemoto, kunama cell phone towers, kunayo yonke that impairs us, you know, linking with that frequency. That is why you feel refreshed. Mauge wapuma waye makhaya, you know, where you are closer to nature. Ayikho busy. feel refreshed, by going there. Amakhetla always go to inzalo yelanga. That is the frequency and connector kuyo. That a frequency of earth, meaning kuti it's a layer emboze uMhlaba wonke. And that is Geb, because they say kuti a vibrational frequency of that creates certain patterns, on earth. Meaning kuti it doesn't only maintain life, it also creates life. Because they say, once, they did a research, lama scientists, batola kuti, growth happens just by the availability of that frequency. And they say also kuti that frequency also heals. Ingakho situ Geb as well, ungumlaphi, because u create a frequency that creates herbs that are able to heal our system. So u Geb again, is that frequency. And that frequency is said to be, negatively charged. Because all along we always knew to Earth, it's by Bizani, Mother Earth. And we thought the sky is positive. Do you understand? And Earth is negative. The sky note is positive. Because that is where Ilang and all the stars go through the stomach of Nut. Nut swallows the sun, Tambama Alizale Gabusha, in the morning. Nut. Lento injalo makhetha, because uma kuhlangana that frequency bayibizani ionosphere or something like that, but the frequency which is above Earth, which is connected to Nut, may ihlangana ne frequency kaGeb. That is when creation happens on Earth. So okhokho bethu understood, were scientists. So yingakho thina mesiqhela from eyintweni zethu, we are depriving ourselves, of all that heritage. And we were talking the other day, would we ever surpass them, Tina, as a generation? I don't think so. Maybe ingane, because ingane mesingazifundisa the science, a crash, bayokhula like umntwana besikhuluma la izolo, because these are things that affect physicality. Remember ukuthi uGeb, it's your body. Where nangithi you are a microcosm. So everything that is la emhlabeni, it's in your system. You have gold, you have all these minerals, and elements within you. So whatever is on earth is within you. So umzimba wako uGeb. Hey. And umoya wako uNut. Hey, remember I said the female energy mele siyiphakamise all the time, because that is the positively charged, energy. Yiyo eyenza ukuthi, because without that positively charged energy, nothing will grow on earth. Meaning ukuthi sizobulawa indlala. Even ourselves, we won't be able to be sustained. So umama represents Nut. Umama is very important, must be respected. So uNut ke uGeb ubumqoka ke bakhe ke bulapho makhehla ukuthi i-understanding yethu asisukeni from the shallow understanding of these principles and really delve into this content, because the content esikhuluma ngayo i-content of the future. Namhlanje siyabonga sinendlovukazi, andlovukazi abantu abazosincedisa ukuthi sifike la siyakhona, ngoba sesenzela thina we might not live lempilo esifisayo, kodwa sesenzela izingane zethu nezizukulwana zezizukulu ukuthi ziphile kahle, ukuthi sibuyele and realign as African people, so that we take our position. I normally say ukuthi uMhlaba is in chaos today. Why? Because uranwa yingane. child-headed home. This is our earth. So because when Namtomyama is a parent, you've absconded your responsibility. That is why there's so much chaos. So we need to rise, again, and rise to that consciousness. This energy or frequency, 7.8, 3 hertz, ega Geb, when it decided to actually create humanity, you were created first. Hey, that is why you are your system is just full of carbon, which is known as melanin. It's because wapumakala when. Then when age wazala wonke umuntu okhona. So you need to go back to that. Umzali wena, laba abanye can't teach you anything. When just go back to okhokho bakho laba ishiya khona indlela. You will then realize the power yakho as an African person. And the calendar njengoba ngisho makhe. Okhokho we connecting kulo moya esiconnecta kuwo manje. Because mesenza lamahubo nomphahla, you are then creating a vibration necessary, to then connect to that frequency ka-Geb, which is the frequency of earth. Abelungu abayazi as the Skuman resonance. So, namakhehla me produce music. I need to amend the frequency, because they say it heals. That frequency, it heals. And the band who are in music production, they understand the frequencies, how important the frequencies, are to our life, and our health. So, la emalokishini nasemadrobheni, meaning that frequency as a access easy. Why? Because there's so much disturbance. Yingako is very important once in a while. Puma, from the city, we're somewhere where you can just connect freely, not the frequency, because just to go back on in that environment, it heals you. So that is what we're talking about when we are talking about Geb. We're talking about that frequency. It's responsible also for our heartbeat. The heartbeat here too is the same rate, with that frequency. And in Njengoba besho that frequency creates on its own. When that frequency is not hindered by anything, it creates. Unokubona ukuthi mhlambe ubeka umhlabathi nje somewhere. After some time nje, makunimvula, something grows there. Hey, from nowhere when ungayitshalanga. Because there is just this frequency, ekhona, which is what we call Geb, Mhlaba. Because without that frequency, nothing happens on earth. And without, the frequency of note, nothing, happens on earth. Meaning, Geb is receptive. We are receiver from the mother. Yingako even the graphic yakhe. Uzombona ukuthi unote is above yena, ulele in a repose, a position. So I'm glad we are able to, because lento le signifier ukuvuleka kwe-pineal gland. Remember kuthiwa i-pineal gland yethu is calcified, and when your pineal gland is calcified, it's impossible for you to understand these things. Tina singakhuluma 1,000 words, but if you are still blocked, like uMkhulu said, I'm not trying to say anything which is funny, but uMkhulu said, lama vaccines, they block our spiritual eye. That is our father, the person who taught us. Uguti, we must be careful. Meaning, Uguti, we need to be self-dependent as African people. Mele senze izinto ezihambelana nathi. Geb has created through that vibrational frequency. Ama herbs, amanengi, everything is bedlela sethu, it's nature itself. So we need to give ourselves a chance, and nethuba as African people ukuthi sike sihloniphe izinto zethu, because abanye abantu ukhona umuntu onekhamba but is not given an opportunity for them to do experiments, because you need to do these controlled experiments where it involves millions. Hey, you know, ulai lokshini uvuke nalo muti uyawutest ebantwini uyasebenza, but you don't have the millions to do trials. You know, meaning ukuthi now kumele kube ne facility. At some point, I remember there's this organization in government, the CSIR. They were trying to do ilenduza. When you register e-patent, meaning ukuthi they were opening up ukuthi wena as umuntu gobela umuntu wenyanga othole ikhambi elithize, because before South African Medical Research Council approve whatever ikhambi lakho, there's a process that you have to go through, and in most instances umuntu omnyama is not in a position to actually do that. You know why? Because we lack the resources. You know, our resources here, as we know, you know, were stolen. Now, sesibuswa ngawo lawo ma resources, we are being even deprived. Our banks are zoning, you know, our communities, which we are not going to get, you know, funding because we are too risky. Which is why we then have to learn from the Afrikaner. When they took over from the British, they set up everything to make sure that the Afrikaner, you know, progresses. Despite of stumbling blocks by the British, they made sure that all these institutions that are supposed to help the Afrikaner reach a level efana British. But unfortunately, us, mesingena la sangena sesi ponzo ngale rainbow nation, meaning ukuthi manje sesirotshwa that special attention which we are supposed to be given. The government is supposed to risk billions on us. Ukuze sithuthuke. If you are not going to take risk on your people, uthini? Because we are ibona inhlupheko kunokuthi inciphe iyanda. And it's so simple ukudila ne-issue yomuntu omnyama. Mobilize black people. Ukuze black people are able to feed themselves, clothe themselves. Then billions that can circulate amongst black people. It's simple. Industrializing our township. Billions that leave our township every day. It's amazing. And the sloko siyakhala kuthela belungu. Basihleli la entanyeni. Bazosithala vele because nathi we are too dependent. We are too dependent. Okwamanje we're not even supposed to be asking government. If land was in 94, Isowethu, I'm sure ngabe seyidlula sentini in terms of development, because we hold, you know, that buying power, and that is our leverage. We need to use the buying power to develop ourselves. There's no reason ukuthi manje, you know, sisathenga abo Albani. There's no reason. Or any other, you know, product which is not manufactured like I. So, umsebenzi wethu is to then mobilize abantu and raise that consciousness ukuthi umuntu omnyama, you don't need miracles for you to get out of this poverty okuyo. Just love yourself more. And then guard your spending, you know, patterns. But any into, which is why it's important for us to do the level 1 correctly. The foundation has got to be right for us to move into the future. If we are not able to master that unity, because black people, we need unity.
Oh, yeah.
Without unity, nothing will happen. Baneng abantu balahlela amabhillion la elokishini, but lama billion ayanyamalala nje, there's no development. So kumele thina sihlangane as a community of black people. It doesn't matter ukuthi ubelonga ku-ANC, EFF or inkatha, whatever. No, into esihlanganisayo yile nhlupheko esibhekene nayo, is the lack of knowledge of ourselves. Let's begin now. So those are the things that we need to deal with. First, decolonizing the mind of black people. And that unity, we need to demonstrate it. Fill up the stadium. To celebrate our new year. Those are things that we need to demonstrate, because once we can achieve that stadium, that will be the liberation not only of black South Africans but black people internationally. Because from that day, sizoplana as a collective of black people. Masiti, sesiyale manje, sesihamba sonke as a unit. And it doesn't mean we hate other people. We don't hate other people. Into nje esemqoka ukuthi, and the truth is that umuntu omnyama uye odinga much attention now. We will deal with ingane zethu later. Okwamanje kusahleli abazali, and they're fixing the African problem. Once that is sorted, then there'll be harmony. Even within the Rainbow Nation table, sizohlala lapha as equals. Manje uhlala lapha nabantu, their bank accounts are a billion. When you feel 300 in that table, what weight are you going to put? Culturally, socially, we are weak. And there's no reason for you to be in that position. You are in that position because asika hlangani 94 years dabula yasenza ukuthi silandele different political philosophies. Kanti the wisdom should have been uniting black people. Even when they go to parliament, we speak with one voice. Look at the question uMhlaba. We're talking about now this vibrational frequency. Geb uMhlaba, and uMhlaba esikhala ngawo. Ufuna ukungitshela ukuthi majority yabantu abamnyama lapha eParliament can resolve that. They can resolve it just like that. But because of the ego, self-preservation, I'm the one who's supposed to be pushing and leading this thing. Whilst abantu abamnyama sahlupeka in the process. Nilwela nje abayazibalela into angayakho lapha eParliament. Ngoba the serious issues okumele ngabe bayazilwela ukuthi ba create i-unity. So that uMhlaba wethu buye. Mesikhuluma ngoGeb, sikhulume ngokuthi spiritually and physically uMhlaba wethu buyile. Ngoba mesikhuluma manje, sikhuluma nje ukuthi half-heartedly. Ayikahlangani lento le. And ukuze ihlangane. Enye into that I always say ukuthi, remember ukuthi South Africa has got bilateral agreements with so many nations. So, ukuthi lento le, it must be undone yomhlaba. It's going to be difficult. Because all nations of the world are represented kulo mhlaba wethu. Yinto le ngabe yalunga 94. Kwathiwa umhlaba qala, then we can negotiate whatever else after. But now we are locked in that situation. As you've said, our leader said, they offered this sunset clause. Amabhunu didn't ask for this thing. So manje uyabona ukuthi basibuyisele 100 years back. Ngoba if we are not fighting, something is going to happen, social whatever, kuzoba nempi la South Africa. And it's unnecessary. So yingakho ngithi umhlaba uzobuya automatically. Tina, if we can build a parallel system. A system that is going to destroy the system naturally. We don't have to fight anything. Umhlaba wethu uzobuya tina mesingakhombisa that unity. Nokuthi sesiyasebenzisana as African people. As long as we are still divided, it means that the decisions we are making today siqhilaza generations to come. Ngoba siyayibona le system esikuyo isilokhile. And you can't just demand umhlaba without demanding the destruction of the system. Because the system ubutsotsi. It was founded on the basis of balkanizing our land and forming this RSA. So the original sin yiyo le RSA. So manje ngake silwise physically ingakho sijima la emoyeni. Sicela emakhetheni ukuthi kube yiwo who fighting this war for us. Because mesibamba nje ngokwenyama izohlula. Izohlula kumele nje sithina silethe yazi i-unity makhehla nokuthandana amongst ourselves then everything else. Ngiyazi ukuthi lento yokuthi sisupportane, it's not an option, it's an obligation. We're obliged as a black person ukuthi le movement meyiqalile seyibambile sonke we move in one direction. Other nations, they do it, Amandia, Namajuta, they do it in front of us. And then they prosper because of that, using their culture. Culture as a glue to keep them and make them successful. But Tina, instead of learning what they are doing, Senzani, pull down syndrome. Why? Because we are still colonized. Many develop something that in no time so goes abantu bazongoroba. Why? Because ucabanga ukuthi ubani ufuna uvuka ngathi mele ngivuke ngubani. So we need to kill that mentality. We need to kill that mentality because that is the mentality of the past. I must be obliged ukuthi ukhehla meyeqala ipackaging yempuphu wonke umuntu omnyama supports. And somebody else may call something else. Wonke umuntu omnyama support. Hey, even our schooling system. Remember our schooling system. Tina, it's going to be different. Why? Because we are going to concentrate on what is inside of that child. Into azalwe nayo. We want to mind that. So that lendo si polish. Asikhanyisele as a nation. Because our force yazi basibulala ingane thokulumanje because I understand umnikeza into that is from outside uthi I internalize yingakho umuntu omnyama kuthiwa isiduphunga stupid lapha esikolweni. Why? Because indlela abasifundisa ngayo is completely different. Thina sifunda practical. Mawufuna ngazi imoto beka imoto la uthi nali le spanner sivula lapha senzani lo amehlo take a picture, mental picture. I will never forget that. Manje mawungiqala ngetheory uyangconfuse. So our schooling system is going to be based on the 12 houses, these 12 seasons esikhuluma ngazo ukuthi wena uzalwe kweyiphi season, what characteristics of that principle do you embody? That is the foundation of understanding ukuthi umuntu uzokhula ultimately abe yini. It's a simple system. Umntwana siyambona at the age of 4 or 5 ukuthi oh lo uma-athi lo umuntu ohambelana nomthetho simfaka lapha kulo. I don't know imele siqale vele whatever lo at age 5. So that lo muntu by the age of 10, 15 he's a master in that thing. Lento siloko sizi wastela isikhathi yingakho there are so many things that we need to change. Izinto that we take for granted. Because amongabheka whatever oyifundile from sub 8 ufika ku form 5 we apply kuphi 12 years of wasted years nje. Kanti ngabe bowungene lapha entweni yakho mesikubona ukuthi uya easy ngamafika sikunikeza iprogram ye stock market immediately. By the age of 15 you are a master, you are a trader, you are a millionaire. Manje at that age usakhanya from 5 lentuza metric we are still even not sure ukuthi uzoyenzani. You must go for counseling lapha esikolweni. System better. Hey, this is the system SCS Mosha. We are not able to, give birth to our inventors. Why? Because we are suffocating. Labantwana. Lomntwana uyambona nje ebufaneni bakhe uthanda imic from the age of 3 uyacula lo muntu. Umsaphi lapha enesini. Umsaphi vele. Hayi no, because thina kule strike ugcwele ama-nurse nama-doctor. Umoshile ingane forever. Kanti ngabe encourage lo muntu agcina afana nabo Mambusi Mhlongo, abo Brahu. Master at the age of 10, 15. Manje, when you become a master, after university, we are labo ma 35. So katele. Ukatele. The creative yako, it has, slowed down. Because so believe. So one must start at the age of 10, 12, sharp. Lapho the creative juices are still flowing. Hey, uzoba hotep, uzoba credo, uzoba something in our community. So this is the future I'm talking about. Tina, as I always say, we don't need any foreign content. We have all the content. Remember, Guti, content uMhlaba gave birth, was given birth by African content. Why? Because civilization started here on the continent. That has been scientifically proven. So the southern part of the continent, yiti esaqala civilization, la on the south. When you talk about calendar, you talk about science, you talk about astronomy, yaqala la. So if foundation you offer this world knowledge is Africa. Most of these people, about Pythagoras, all these people, but George about right angle, triangle, bayenze yabo, kanti into ka hotep. Hey, no hypocrite, le bakuthathisa i-oath ka hypocrite as a doctor. Who's hypocrite? Hypocrite ingane man ku hotep. The first person, owaqala, the Western medicine, hotep. And ube inyanga. Umuntu who understood my herbs. Uye waqala designed all the medical instruments. It's scientifically proven. Let them bring back our rinde, baze bayibiza rinde, papyrus. Our medical, documents. They're all over Europe. That proves then when you show. So nathi as African people without even thinking. Sithathisa ama-doctors ethu hypocrite oath. Who is not the father of medicine? Hotep is the father of medicine. The world has acknowledged that. So we are born colonization is right. Colonization of the mind. Yingakho we need to decolonize the mind. So that in future, when we control our economy, when we control our health system, remember, I once said to Tina, we have more of a carbon, what is commonly known as melanin. So our medication shouldn't have lots of metal in it. As the medication yabelung, it should be different. But who talks about such things? Ukuthi lento lapho umlungu might be a poison to you. Because naturally I have a lot of iron and ungifakela ama-metals in my medicine. Awungibulali. So these are things okumele our health department in future should look at. Umuntu omnyama uhlukile. Why? Because there's, hayi ukuthi abanye abantu abanayo melanin, they do. But in a lesser degree. Tina, we have more melanin. So everything here, to even the way comprehension here, is completely different. Naturally, Tina, as a band, we think in pictures. Huh? For me to comprehend and understand Indo, I need to have a clear picture of it here in my mind. So if you don't understand that mechanism, it means we are sbulala. We are sbulala. So these are the things of youth. Tina sisebenza kanje sisebenzeni youth. Abanye abantu shokuthi nokubonga mengibona omama. Ngoba omama you wouldn't expect ukuthi they would still be here. Be hearing and understanding the importance yale information and yale nto siyenzayo. Because most of abo mama bakhathele. bayitshela ukuthi bona they've long normalized the colonization. uJesu right meke shona umfundisi wethu uzomngcwaba ugrand yakafuni nithi.
Whoa.
To my surprise, you know, and I'm proud to say ukuthi sinabo mama who gets it, ukuthi it's important ukuthi babe khona to understand, because abelungu when they came here and colonized us, they recruited mama qala. Don't do mama, the whole family will follow mama. So yingakho ke nathi we need to wage this revolution iqale mama, it must be led by mama. Mama yini yabona. So ilapho ke makhetha thi ngibuyele emuva isinama questions owaphendula phathi. Siku season ka Geb, the season le yiyo le, you know, that mirrors the fullness of creation, meaning ukuthi manje konke sokukhulile, because from this season nothing will grow. The nurturing energy of the sun, the hydrogen, is now hibernating. You know, Asa will never say he's Asa, he is Soka. Asa in hibernation. That is why even the representation of Asa, it's black. But when it comes to September, it's green. You understand? So meaning ukuthi the energy or the nurturing of the energy, shokuthi bophekile nayo. Yingakho awukwazi manje ukuthi uyocela anything of physicality. Hey man, vele nqangi ngicela imoto. Awukwazi, because the sun is in hibernation. From March nje khohlwa ukuthi uzocela anything. Hey. So hey, chokuthi le period esizoqala kuyo ka auset. I period la kuthiwa kuhlukana khona, ihlukanisa umoya nenyama. Umoya manje, the physicality is bounded. Kahle kahle isikhathi la kumele sijule khona ngokwenza izinto zomoya. Hey, we look inwardly. Makufika the period of winter, we are hibernating as you know, as the sun. Ngoba manje i-physicality says so ibheka nini ngoSeptember, when that energy returns again. So kahle kahle i-holiday yethu bokumele kube is the winter period. Senze izinto that are not too much physical. Why? Because asisenawo amandla. So makufika kuSeptember sesibuyela kuphi enyameni, because everything of you know, inyama of physicality is being renewed. Yingakho ubona even the environment, everything starts greening because of that nurturing energy ka Asa. So Asa is coming back. So yingakho sithi ke le calendar awukwazi ukuyiphikisa, ngoba mawuphikisa uphikisa nature. It is reflective of nature itself, which is why we need to realign the calendar so that we become successful and our prayers as a collective can be heard much quicker. Yingakho ama-Muslim namaJuda baba nesikhathi sabo sokuhlangana benze izinto zabo. So nathi ke siyacela mhlawumbe ukuthi, you know, akube iqhaza silibambayo lelo sisonke as you know, black people, those that have had, because banisabela ubungeke ube la if awunasabela. Lento le, it's not for everybody. Ibamba abantu bayo. Tina, we are not recruiting. Sikhuluma nje kanye umnikazi wayo uzoza. So ingakho la sina competition. Tina siqhutshwa umoya uletha umoya uhambe phambili. Tina silandele ngasemuva. So sinesabelo sonke ende siceliwe ukuthi sikhone ukuthi sikhulule lamadlozi ethu lokho avalelekile from all this time. Ever since the fall of the great empire of Kemet, we've been in slavery ever since. Imagine, bafuna uku-expressa labantu bathi phela wena uzalwe ebukhosini, but when you aspire to be like a president, kanjani lo mzukulu wethu ungenwe yini manje samshiyela ubukhosi thina yena sekebiza amanye amagama asamuzwa ukuthi uthini. That is the colonization of the mind, and also ingcindezo yamadlozi ethu. Amadlozi ethu afuna uku-expressa as amakhosi namakhosikazi when we aspire to be something else, a Western influence over Africa. Kanjani? It won't work. That is why all the attempts, that were actually tried to unify people, I failed. Like the unity that was sought by Nkrumah, it failed at birth because it was opposed by some of the presidents who said, no, go slow, Nkrumah. Why? Because they still wanted to benefit. Self-preservation again. Nobody, even now, when you project the future, who wants to give up power for the benefit of a collective of African people? Nobody is prepared to do that. So, manje yini ke lento we are hoping. It means ukuthi kuno pambana, kancane, because you can't keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results all the time. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you as an African person. We need to change, and change for the better, because now we are embracing the spirit of Isankof. We're going back and take everything that is positive, that Okokobetu did, to build a future for ourselves. Lento school, it has no future, we know. He said that's about greedy. Saba nomkhubulwane. When you are sent to a position, all you think about self-preservation. How much resources am I going to amass in this position? Bulele the whole generation of African people just by that decision. So let us be wiser. Materialism, you can't go to sacrifice the whole nation because ufuna drive ama-Bentley, those things are uzozithola naturally. Amadlozi akho azokubonga. Yenza umsebenzi nje womoya wena uzokubonga amadlozi. So ilapho isifundo makhehla uGeb usifundisa lokho ukuthi because uGeb uyo usinikeza stability, uyo ostabilizer yonke into emhlabeni. So uGeb is giving us that stability, and uGeb is dictating ukuthi kumele because remember ukuthi if there's chaos emhlabeni, it disturbs harmony yasezulwini. Everything that is above mirrors everything that is here on earth. Manje thina mesi create chaos by not rising to that consciousness. Lento okumele siyenze, we are disturbing the whole ecosystem just by our decisions. So we need to be conscious of such things so that even in future, youth must stop ukuthi bacabanga ukuthi bona basadla ubusha babo. Ungabatsheli ngalezi zinto lezi. It's a waste of time. Thina siyafa manje. Yini nisele? Are you going to remain as slaves? Just like what we did, our fathers, and some of us are still slaves. Are you going to liberate yourself by knowing yourself first? Because self-knowledge. Once you know yourself, you will never allow yourself to be a slave again. You will resist everything, that has to do with slave mentality. So if future again, Makesha, if future again, I always say, lendaba ukuthi, uyazi abantwana bamabhunu nabamajuda, whilst ingane zethu zigcwele emaklabhini la ebusuku, benzani nabantwana? They are planning a future. Hayi ukuthi naba bashaya amavosho. Bashaya amavosho but banesikhathi. Mawungabheka thina our youth, all that they love, fun, alcohol, fun. Mawubakhuza isikhathi sethu. Bese ngeke ebusheni ba. We're not there. So please spend ukuyeke, but aba realize ukuthi labantu laba bayakhula and bane future kumele bayiconfront ngqo. if they don't prepare for that future. Remember Utieti was 19 years old. Utieti confronted its system at that age and brought the system to its knees. So melanin, now you need to rise to that. Ngoba, it's not yet uhuru. Askafiki la kumele sifike khona. Hey, so let's struggle this. Mele siqhutshwe yini. And niyosiqhuba ngani? Hayi ngenyama. Ngomoya. You need to arm yourself with knowledge ekuxhumanisa nenature. Because okhokho bakho were studying nature. They were reflecting in nature in everything that they would do. Ipower yakho ilapha. Uyazi ukuthi ne-atomic bomb elapha ku-Trump ungayidiffuser ngomoya ula. Ayikho into edlula umoya makhehla. Hey, so don't be scared ukuthi abantu baphethe amabhomu angakanani cha. Thina sizalwa yila makhosi namakhosikazi who were very powerful. Yeah? Abantu who landed on the serious star formation without going on planes or malenduza. They landed there and came back and wrote to go to this is how we structured that serious star formation. Abelungu mebefika, they confirmed about Kepler. Ngalama, telescope. So, ipower yethu umoya manje ungadideki umuntu omnyama ulokhu ufuna ukwenza izinto ngenyama. That is why we are in this position esikuyo, because silokho siphethwe inyama wire. And the into eyeza deliberately during the 19th and 20th century. Abelungu beza nemfundiso ukuthi we must use logic. Hey, lento yenu lokho nisitshela ngalamadlozi siyizwa. Everything must be proven. Hey, bathi ke bona the causal plane, because before kuba necabbage kunama principles that are involved in creating lelo cabbage. Umlungu uthi that is mambo jumbo. Angizwa le mina leyo nto leyo. Why? Because naturally system yabo they are not able to understand the other realms. They are limited because of the lack of melanin. Okhokho bethu were masters in the causal plane. Ukuthi before kuba nalesihlahla, what principles were involved? We're masters there. So kula melani buyele khona amandla enu alapho. That is how they ruled the world. With that knowledge. So when you limit yourselves on things that have manifested already njengabelungu, uphethe imfundiso yeingane. Iscience yabelungu, iscience yeingane. Hey, bakutshela ukuthi there's this first atom, but abasho ukuthi buya. Ukehla was Paula the other day ukuthi abelungu bathi life iqale e0. Akuna zero la. How? Hey, thina sazi okhokho bethu bathi life iqale kukhulunkulwane, meaning ukhulunkulwane it's infinity. All the possibilities were there in the beginning, not zero. Hey. So that infinity gave birth to the first atom they called atom. Who ended up being atom and atom, Bible, plagiarism, so ngiyacela ngesikhathi kaGeb mele nje at the end of the season sizo testify ukuthi kahle how were we affected by the energy kaGeb. I even shared the frequency yakhe makehla, please hambe emakhaya thina siya eMpumalanga kunini sihamba nge20 siyenza lo elanga siyo connecta nale frequency. Because lapha enzalo elanga it's along the golden meridian. If you understand the golden meridian, that is where the first calculation is cut was. Because the golden meridian, that is where enifala la eMpumalanga Durban kahle kahle ize kanje ikhuphuke yoshaya le Egypt. The pyramid of Giza is at the center of Earth, and it's along that golden meridian. So okhokho bethu calculated time from there. Abelungu bafika basifaka kuphi? Greenwich. Out of alignment. Uvuke ekuseni nje so lose 6 hours. How? Ilanga naliyavela mos. Why would you 7? Ngoba isikhathi is calculated from the rising of the sun. When the sun rises, that's the first hour. Ungathi u7 dakilinda. Hey. So manje izinto kumele siziquestione, and there izinto kumele sizi-align sizilungise as African people, because Tina, we are kings and queens, man. Royalty runs in our veins, so we need to rise to that position. Ukuthi mawuthiwa uyinkosi yini? It's not about privilege. Inkosi kumele ibonakale ngezenzo zayo. And it doesn't matter ukuthi uzale kweyiphi indlu. Let's say as an example lenginokuyibeka, indlu yokuqala izale inkosana, but le nkosana iyabheda. But indlu yesi-3 izale enye inkosana, but iyaphila le nkosana. Asikwazi ukuyibeka le nkosana because umthetho wala esigodlweni uthi ilowe. Then that kills the whole community. Ibhedisa nomsamo, because once kuphethe umsamo wasesigodlweni kuphetha yonke into. So kumele silandele umoya all the time. Even future leaders akumele balide lento siyobona ngezenzo zabo ukuthi no lo deserves ukuthi simlandele. Umoya mawulapha emoyeni kumele uoperate kanjani. Ungabi ne-ego ukuthi because mina I'm the first, therefore I must lead. Kepha uyabona ukuthi mesingalidwa yiloya siyofika much easier le. So injalo makhehla ake sibuyeleni, you know, kulento esiyo natural. Yazi namhlanje I'm so excited. Sibusiseyile namhlanje but sixoxa ngelinye ilanga. Thokoza.